People and Places Committee meeting Wednesday the 26th of February 2025. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on Council's Facebook page. I've received apologies from Mayor Wise. Are there any other apologies? Doesn't look that way. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Yep. Councillor Mawson and Teriha. Put the motion for the apologies. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Nothing there. Today we have a presentation in the public forum. I'd like to welcome Lynn Trafford from the Holt Planetarium to come and speak to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I have with me today all the trustees from the Holt Planetarium Trust, and beside me is also the principal of Napier Boys High School, Simon Coe. In the early 1960s, Harold Holt purchased a Zeiss planetarium projector, which he subsequently gave to the Napier City Council and the citizens of Napier. And I think probably everyone of a certain age, certainly people of my age, will remember the planetarium having been housed in the Lilliput building next to the museum. I guess most people went to see it there. In the 1990s, Sir Ian Axford decided that it should be housed at Napier Boys High School. So, along with Napier City Council, Napier Boys High School, and citizen groups from Napier, a deed was put together to open the Holt Planetarium Trust on the campus at Napier Boys High School. That trust is the same trust that I am currently chairman of. We've worked fine in that building, and we've had a lot of fun times situated at Napier Boys High School. But the time has come when Napier Boys High School want their building back. Such is the growth of that school that every building on campus is required for the boys' learning, not for a civic institution. So the time has come for us to give the Holt Planetarium's Zeiss machine back to the city of Napier. Having one partner pull away, if you like, when there's only three partners, voids the deed that was set up in the 1990s. So we have to give this machine back to the city of Napier. It's a unique machine, perhaps of very little monetary value, but it's the sexiest machine in Hawke's Bay, believe you me. It is a wonderful piece of analogue equipment, the finest Zeiss has produced. But it's time to give it back to the people. So in thinking about this, I've come up with sort of three solutions. I didn't want to come with nothing. I've come up with three ways that I think that machine could continue to have a future. First off, you could uplift it from Napier Boys High School and put it into another council facility. All it needs is a building with a high ceiling, and I keep looking at this one going, It needs a building with a high ceiling that can have a dome suspended in it for the projector to be underneath it and project up onto the dome. One room with a high ceiling. Where could you put this? Could you put it into the aquarium, whether you bowl it or build a new one? Could you build a room with a high ceiling? Could you put it in the Faraday Centre? Maybe not in the building that's there already, but in another room with a high ceiling. Could you put it in the museum, in one of the galleries with a high ceiling? Could you put it in the new library in a place with a high ceiling? Could you put it somewhere else that I don't know anywhere about? but is another council facility somewhere, as long as it has a room with a high ceiling. Option 2, you could close the whole thing down. It is a really unique working piece of precision engineering, but you could close it down. You could put it as an artefact in the museum, or you could put it as an artefact in the Faraday Centre. Both of those options would just be simply dreadful, but you could do that. Or number 3, you could give it to another city outside of Hawke's Bay who will love that machine and give it a future. Or you could give it to another institution outside of Hawke's Bay, somewhere where they will love that machine and give it a future. I have met with the manager of Art, Culture and Heritage from Napier City Council recently, and this has been no surprise to her. I have offered to work with her on behalf of the Trust to try and come to a solution that needs to be found sooner rather than later. Napier Boys High School want us out of that building. They want us out of that building yesterday. They want us out of that building today. We are safe there till the end of this year. It is my hope that maybe we are safe there till the end of next year. But the reason for coming today is simply to say we need to get out. So I'm giving the council notice. It's over to you now. On the day Napier Boys High School turf us out, I give the machine back to the City of Napier. Between now and then, maybe together we can find a solution for that machine that will be for the benefit of the citizens of Napier. I come to you today to present that as needing to be done and to ask for your help to find a suitable solution on behalf of the people. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was awesome. Love it. I love your passion for it. And I will just ask our councillors if they have any questions, if that's okay. Councillor Bogue.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much, Lynn, Maxine Bogue. For those people who are watching this and don't know a lot about it, could you just explain exactly what this projector does and what it is that's there now and what we could possibly lose?
It is purely optical, it is not digital, and this is the difference between what you see at our planetarium here in Hawke's Bay and what you might see at any other planetarium across New Zealand. Across New Zealand, the other planetariums project digitally onto a dome the night sky, or whatever else they want to project. We can only project the night sky in the southern hemisphere because that is how our machine was set up by Zeiss in the 1960s, or probably in the late 1959 sort of era. It was set up to project the southern hemisphere onto a dome. Each lens individually made to project thousands of stars and planets and the moon onto a dome. It is completely dark. When you're sitting there to watch the night sky, it is a complete dark sky experience, such that you cannot get in any other planetarium in New Zealand. It is totally unique. It is very old, and it works 100%. It is a treasure. It is a treasure. Thank you, Maxine.
Councillor Gregg.
Oh yes, through the chair. Just talking of dimensions, you say it needs a high ceiling. What sort of width are we talking? Do you have sort of a meterage?
Oh, look, I'm so sorry. I do not know the dimensions that are needed. This ceiling would be round about right, high. The dome is perhaps as wide as the gap in the middle here, and quite deep, I suppose, because it's a sphere, or semi-sphere. So not a large room, but it must have a high ceiling, yeah.
Councillor Price and Councillor Taylor.
Great presentation, Lynn. I think your passion comes through. If a location was found, would you envisage operating like you do now with you've got some paid and some volunteers?
A new trustee would need to be drawn up if that's what the city decides is required. And I know there's a bit of a movement that way, but we've had a trustee since the 1990s, and we've never had to bother the council about things until now, really. We've just continued to oomph along until now. So would we carry on? No, you'd have to put together a whole new trustee with a whole new group of trustees exclusive of Napier Boys High School.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Great presentation. A couple of questions. Is the current dome able to be moved from Boys High School to another location?
You could cut it out and move it. Whether you would actually want to do that might be another thing. It might in the end be cheaper to make another one. I don't know. Engineering question.
And would the cathedral be a suitable building?
You know, I went to the public meeting about the cathedral and I sat there and thought, I've been telling everyone I just want one room with a high ceiling, but my God, oops, that is really high. That is really high. And whereas I think there are maybe possibilities for moving into that building, should it be cut up on levels? I'm sure there's a space in there that's high enough to put a planetarium.
Excellent.
I have actually tried to get my head around that.
Councillor Brown, then Mawson.
Kia ora, through the chair. Thank you very much, Lynn. Just interested to know what sort of relationship the current trust has with other sort of space-type agencies within Hawke's Bay.
I'm sorry,
Oh, am I missing it? Interested to know what level of interaction the current trust has with other space-type industries, like the Rocket Lab over in Mahia. Do we have like a space community that feeds into this?
One of the trustees or the current director of the Hawke's Bay whole planetarium is the current president of the Astronomical Society in Hawke's Bay. There is a whole network of astronomical societies across Hawke's Bay. Rocket Lab is difficult. It is a company registered on the New York Stock Exchange. It is not any longer a New Zealand company. The people that work at Mahia have great affection for things to do with the local astronomical society and the local astronomical community, but they are an American company.
Thank you.
Councillor Mawson.
Yeah, through the chair. With this sexy Zeiss, I assume you can't move it. So this room would need to be a room where the projector would stay in and not be moved, correct?
Yeah, I think moving the projector is something you would not want to do too often now, simply because of the age of it. It's working really, really well, but I think a substantial bump and you might lose a piece of it. And losing a piece of it, because it is so optical, would be just dreadful. You can't replace it.
No. And just, sorry, through the chair, supplementary. So, and this is one of how many in the world?
We got 3 in the Southern Hemisphere, but ours works.
Thank you.
Councillor Tarahau.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge the trustees here today. Just to my understanding, back in 2023, the Hawke's Bay
Recording stopped.
Astronomical Society were looking at moving the observatory to EIT, and I'm not too sure if that project was completed, but have you guys engaged with EIT to maybe relocate there?
Are you talking, I'm sorry, I have difficulty hearing. Are you talking about the relationship between the Astronomical Society and EIT?
Well, even, yeah, the planetarium. in EIT?
There is no relationship between the planetarium and the EIT other than that tertiary students use the planetarium for tertiary studies, but there is no relationship between EIT and the planetarium.
And just following on from that, sorry, do you know anything about the relocation of the observatory to EIT?
Yes, that's the Astronomical Society wishes to relocate its observatory from the back of Beyond to up by Otara Pa at EIT, and that is a telescope facility. We are a planetarium, not an observatory.
Yeah, thank you.
Acting Mayor Brosnan?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. You may not be able to answer this, Lynn, but my question is, you've spoken a lot about the age and the uniqueness of the Zeiss, and my question is, what is the risk that in relocation it is damaged beyond repair?
I think you could move it very carefully. It could be mothballed and moved. I genuinely believe it could be mothballed and moved, just as any other piece of medical equipment or optical equipment can be moved. I think you could move that. You would just have to do it with extra care.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Price?
Just more procedural. What action will be taken by keeping them in the loop or working through this?
I understand that our council officers are going to continue to work with the trust and see if we can find a solution.
Thank you.
I mean, if all else fails, one day you'll find it all in the council foyer. I just might have difficulty finding which council building to put it into.
I'd suggest one with a high ceiling.
Except I like this room. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Right. We'll head on through to the rest of the meeting. I have no announcements as the chair. Are there any minor matters not on the agenda for discussion today?
Yes.
Acting Mayor Brosnan?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Could we please add discussion of the public forum as a minor matter?
Yep. Any other? No. Are there any announcements by management? Nothing? Okay. We look at the confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the Napier People and Places Committee meeting held on Thursday, the 29th of August 2024, be taken as a true and accurate record of the meeting? Councillor Gregg and Mawson. Put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. We move to open agenda items now. Agenda item 1 is the Joint Alcohol Strategy Review Report 2024. That's on page 5 in your agendas. The presenter for this report is Rebecca Peterson and Margot. Great, yes. And they should have you got a PowerPoint presentation today as well. Presentation, oh, yeah, we got it there.
Is it?
Yeah, sure. One of those.
Oh. Oh, no, I've got it.
Thank you to the Chair and committee members for the opportunity to present the following Joint Alcohol Strategy Review Report paper. The purpose of the paper is to provide an update on the findings from a review of the current Joint Alcohol Strategy, and to note the Joint Alcohol Strategy Advisory Group approving council officers to proceed with option 2, to pause the implementation of the revised strategy whilst council officers explore alternate strategic approaches. Before I start, a bit of background. This paper reports on the findings from a review of the Hastings District and Napier City Council's Joint Alcohol Strategy 2017 to 2022. Whilst today's paper is not focused on presenting detailed alcohol harm data, I wanted to share the most recent estimated annual cost of alcohol harm in New Zealand, released from the New Zealand Institute of Economic Research late last year. This sits at approximately 9.1 billion. This is an increase from 7.85 billion a year reported in 2018. Before I begin, I'd also like to note the difference between the local alcohol policy and the joint alcohol strategy. On Thursday last week, Council received the draft local alcohol policy and, with noted amendments, approved officers to progress with public consultation. As you know, the LAP sets out decisions made by Council about the sale and supply of alcohol in our community, and within its parameters, it is an effective policy tool for alcohol harm reduction for councils. You will also be aware that the LAP does not include policies relating to price, age limits for drinking, or alcohol advertising and sponsorship. The Joint Alcohol Strategy focuses on preventative actions, awareness and education, leadership and advocacy, and other initiatives for reducing harm, focusing on our events, public spaces and environments. I'm sharing slides with you as I go just to keep things visual. The strategy identifies key objectives and priority groups who are at high risk of experiencing harm. Sorry, I'll just go back. Young people, including underage drinkers, men, Māori, women who may become pregnant. I'm going to go back. I also want to draw your attention to other key partners' roles in alcohol harm reduction. New Zealand Police have a role in alcohol licensing enforcement and high visibility policing. Te Whatu Ora, or Health New Zealand, who play a role in health promotion, advocacy and treatment support service provision. And Council, as I've said, have a role in alcohol licensing and enforcement, advocacy and community development. So this slide here, I suppose, summarises all of Council's areas of influence, and the two circled areas is where the Jazz sits. Before presenting the review findings, it's important to understand the time frame for the adoption of the local alcohol policy, previous local alcohol policy and the joint alcohol strategy over time, noting that the 2017 joint alcohol strategy was adopted before Council had a local alcohol policy in place. This slide differentiates between the two groups I'm going to refer to. The Jazz Reference Group, who oversee implementation of the joint alcohol strategy. This group has been in hiatus since November 2022 in anticipation of the Jazz review that was set for 2023. The review was deferred due to Cyclone Gabriel and has not formally met for 2 years. The newly formed Jazz Review Advisory Group, established in September 2024, to provide advice to officers on the direction of the revised joint alcohol strategy, hear and consider feedback arising from engagement, and provide recommendations to each council on the draft joint alcohol strategy or future strategic approach to alcohol harm reduction. And I just want to acknowledge Councillor Gregg and Councillor Taylor, who are members on that group. The purpose of the review was to determine, if required, a rewrite of the 2017 strategy. Stakeholder engagement meetings occurred between October and November last year, with 17 key sector representatives invited to attend a focus group and the opportunity to participate in one-to-one interviews. The review canvassed the successes of the Jazz, its relevance in the current landscape, the reference group's implementation plan for alcohol harm reduction initiatives, an assessment of effectiveness of the JAS, and a discussion of the options for future direction of the strategy. The review sought to align with national and local direction towards alcohol harm reduction, which is why we sought feedback on the future direction of the strategy. The review report provides an overview of the themes from stakeholder feedback. I'm not going to go into detail, but stakeholders maintained the impact of alcohol harm on physical and mental health, highlighted the impact of moderate consumption of alcohol on cancer, raised concerns about intergenerational harm from hazardous drinking, particularly the effects on our children and young people. There was concern from stakeholders on the lack of addiction and counselling support services, ongoing normalisation of alcohol in our community, and the lack of central government policy responses, particularly price and promotion to reducing harm. Stakeholders also commented on the successes of the JAS. We are one of a few councils who have an alcohol harm reduction strategy and action plan, and because of this, we have implemented a number of projects, such as the Alcohol Moderation Campaign 1 for 1, no alcohol advertising on the back of buses and at bus shelters, and alcohol-free zones promoted at events, to name a few. All of these done with our JAS partners. Stakeholders reported on the unintended benefits of having these existing networks, such as the Safer Napier and the Joint Alcohol Strategy Reference Group, during our responses to Cyclone Gabrielle and COVID-19. Health New Zealand, Te Whatu Ora, confirmed their focus on fetal alcohol spectrum disorder prevention. There was discussion on the importance of regulation, including vetting of licence applications. Stakeholders provided suggestions moving forward, including the importance of community participation in our local alcohol policy. Finally, stakeholders encouraged councils to continue demonstrating leadership through creating alcohol-free spaces at council and community-run events, and whether alcohol-free zones and signage rules could form part of licensing provisions. The future role of the JAS and how this is positioned alongside the local alcohol policy is relevant to the strategy's future direction. With a changing landscape, this review has provided us with the opportunity to look at the overlap with the local alcohol policy objectives, acknowledging the legislative responsibilities under the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act, investigate an opportunity to consider how this work is more joined up. Central government has also placed significant cuts to the public sector, impacting Te Whatu Ora Health New Zealand's public health prioritisation and resourcing. If health are unable to lead alcohol harm reduction in our region, there is a risk that council will be seen to continue this work and fill the void. With the review phase complete, following direction from the Joint Alcohol Strategy Review Advisory Group to proceed with option 2, we have been tasked by the Joint Alcohol Strategy Review Advisory Group to establish parameters for this pause, including to work with our reference group to support community participation in the local alcohol policy review, to determine how the reference group will continue to work together, to determine what actions are to be undertaken before and if a reactivation of the strategy occurs, to continue to collaborate with Hastings District Council and to engage with both Hastings and Napier Youth Councils. The options available to the committee today are as follows: to receive the Joint Alcohol Strategy Review draft report and note the preferred option 2, to pause the implementation of the JAS whilst council officers explore alternative strategic approaches. I'm happy to take questions.
Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Bogue.
Yes, through you, Mr Chair. What do you see as the overlap between the joint alcohol strategy and the local alcohol policy?
Through the chair, I did review the objectives of our current local alcohol policy, and there are at least 3 of the same objectives. So they're high-level objectives around reducing harm. So that's the reference I made.
But could I just elaborate? So the strategy is a way forward, an active, action really, whereas the policy is something that will sit there until it's reviewed again. Is that right? So one is sort of going to would be an activity, a strategy, something that we're going to do, whereas the local alcohol policy is more like enforcement and regulation. Would that be true, correct?
So, through the chair, I'm not quite 100% sure I understand your question, Councillor Bogue. I mean, a strategy sits above a policy. You know, if you look at the slide here, I suppose the strategy is about providing the direction, the vision, and understanding who is most at risk and addressing the issue with priority initiatives that sit underneath. The local alcohol policy has a specific set of, I suppose, limitations and as to what it can achieve. So it's focused on the sale and supply of alcohol in our area. So last week you would have gone through that with your regulatory officers.
So may I just elaborate on that if you didn't understand it? So that orange bit regulation, that's the LAP, and all the rest of it is going to be on hold, basically.
Yes, through the chair, yes.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions? That being the case, do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Crown and Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, please, just briefly. Thank you for running us through that. I think the initiatives that you've touched on are all really positive for the community. I think it's startling, the number that you shared with us at the beginning around the value of alcohol-related harm. However, it is part of our environment, it is part of our way of life. So having these strategies and initiatives, I think, and a plan to implement things is really important. And I think your proposal to pause while you consider additional things there is very pragmatic. So happy to support.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, I'll just make a comment as well that over the last few months we've received lots of information about alcohol harm, and in our deliberations and discussions around the draft LAP, we again received lots of information regarding harm, and your explanation that this is a strategy how we can reduce harm, whereas the LAP is a regulatory tool and sets hours of opening, etc., etc. The pause and direction for officers to look at other options gives us, and I know your emphasis will be on to collaborate with other organisations to actually make submissions on the LAP. So that is one of the most crucial parts of this going forward. So thank you for all the work that you've done and the team's done, and I'm quite happy to second this resolution.
Councillor Bogue.
Out of respect for the committee and for all the work that's been done, I'm not speaking against this, but I'm really sorry in a way that this opportunity that was provided to work collaboratively in a joint multi-sector activity to reduce alcohol-related harm is not going to continue at this stage. I think it's been a very positive vehicle for reducing local alcohol-related harm, advocacy and reform. So all we're left with is the regulation, the LAP review at this stage. So I'm not speaking against the pause, but I do hope the importance of reducing alcohol-related harm in our community isn't lost or shelved.
Technically, I've had 3-4. Would anyone like to vote against it? Councillor Gregg, are you? Okay. All right. Movers' right of reply. Councillor Crown, would you like to?
No, nothing.
No? Right, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Thank you for your presentation. Very good. Agenda item 2 today is Toitu, regional framework to guide support for the creative section of Hawke's Bay, and that's on page 37 of your agenda. And the presenter for this report today is Elizabeth Caldwell. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Kia ora tātou. An earlier version of this document was presented to Council in the 2020-2021 financial year. At that time, you requested that it be resubmitted once it had undergone further development to make it a more region-wide strategy in its scope, or not strategy. This is now the revised document after having undertaken that additional consultation and rewrite. And this paper is seeking your endorsement for it to be used as a tool to assist work undertaken by the council in particular the arts, culture and heritage area, but where it has relevance in other places too. There are a number of positives associated with endorsing it, including it requires no funding from us at all to endorse it. It's a guiding framework. It gives us the benefit of the consultation that's been community-led, it's sector-led and across all disciplines, so we're the beneficiary of that consultation. And it provides us with a very useful set of priorities from the sector that we can sit alongside the council's sector's priorities. That's kind of an overview, but I'm very happy to take questions about it, hoping you've all had a chance to read it.
Are there any questions or discussion from the councillors? Acting Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. I was struggling to see how this was helpful, Elizabeth, so I wonder if you could give me some indication on how it will be implemented and what, because I'm reading through and I'm seeing that the recommendations are dated, that there's some inconsistency potentially with the direction we're given from government, and so I'm just, what's the point?
I think what's sitting behind the document is a large amount of community consultation. So the format that it's in now has a few flaws. My quibbles are small, really, when I can think about how it could be applied. It's helpful for us in how we're, for example, if somebody's doing an application to one of our funding pathways, we can say, how does that align with the priorities that the council is setting, or how does it align with the sector's own priorities? Is this a project we would want to support? And any initiatives we proactively take, we can do the same thing. What's good about it is it's not prescriptive, it's actually quite a flexible lens of prioritising for needs and wants from the sector.
Thank you. If it's all right through you, Mr. Chair, a couple more just delving into that. Thank you for the assurance that it is genuinely going to be of use to you, because that was my concern reading it, introducing another strategy or policy document that is hard to implement. My second question, I've only got two more. My second question is, does it differ in any way from other council priorities? Because I see it overlapping with some of the other policy documents that we have, so I just would like that assurance.
Yeah, I think when I use the word strategy just right at the beginning, misspeaking really, it's not a strategy or a policy, it's a guiding framework. So it's really a lens that we can apply. So when in fact you see it overlapping, that's a good thing, because that means we're actually in alignment, and it's a way to further prioritise. If we're diving into a possible initiative, we can go, well, there's some overlaps here. Can we actually get really quite granular and nuanced about where we put our investment if we're making a new initiative that involves arts and culture sector?
Thank you. So I've got your reassurance that it's not going to create a conflict?
Not remotely.
Okay. Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, my final question was in regards to any cost implications.
None. It's just a really useful reference guide.
Thank you. You've given me a lot of reassurance. Appreciate it.
Councillor Gregg.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. A question about user-friendliness. Has the new framework already been tested out for user-friendliness? For example, page 66, looking at the list of questions that people have to go through when they're applying, how have they responded if they have already?
Yeah, I think you've pointed to one of the little tiny weaknesses I'm saying, where it sort of blurs the ease of reading for users. I think the more you read it, the more friendly it gets, to come back to the language you were using then. Those are checklists of prompts, if you like. They're an aide memoir or a starter set of questions. And if somebody, for example, going back to the same situation I used before, of somebody putting an application to one of our funding pathways, and they might go, how do I know how to frame this up? Have I done this? Have I done that? So they're prompt questions. It's really just a tool for assisting that process.
No further questions. I'll put there that we are to receive the report today and endorse the reference document. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Gregg and Councillor Crystal, would you like to speak to that?
Oh yes, thank you, Elizabeth. I think it's a wonderful document to help people and just guide them when they're applying.
Councillor Crystal.
As the Arts, Culture and Heritage portfolio holder, I remember the first version, and this is a lot more user-friendly, and also it is just a guide. And sometimes I think for artists and people in that sector, they really struggle on how to do things and how to go about things. So if it's helpful for those people, then that's a good thing.
Are there any other speakers to the motion? If not, I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3. Thank you, Elizabeth. Very well done. This is the Napier Social Monitor Report 2024, page 76 in your agenda. The presenter for this report is Margot Wilson, and will be joined by Dr. Virgil Troy from SIL Research. And I believe they have a PowerPoint presentation for us, which is just being set up now.
Kia ora koutou, and thank you for having us here today to present the 2024 Social Monitor information. Thanks to SIL Research for coming today, particularly Virgil. He's been donkey deep in this. And Virgil will be doing the heavy lifting today as opposed to me. So he's going to give us a brief presentation and answering any questions that you may have, as well as giving insights and commentary on some of the findings. So please receive the report, and I encourage you to note how the information is being used to inform not only our work here at Council, but also our partner work programs, such as Safer Napier, PASAG, and in particular our community resilience work that we're doing in partnership with Hawke's Bay Sedum. I would also note that community safety is reported in the annual report, and that the data that's provided through the social monitor informs that information. Community-wide, a summary report of the data is also shared on the Council's website with our key partner agencies and groups, and also on our community network email list, which I understand has more than 258 people that get it. So we're taking the paper as read, and I'll hand over to Virgil to take you through the detail.
Thank you, Margot. Good afternoon, everyone. Lovely to see you again. So just to reiterate what Margot was saying, the purpose of this is to really present just a summary of the findings. And of course, the reason why we do the social monitor is to measure residents' perceptions of social wellbeing in Napier and inform on council policies. So last year we undertook the research between the 4th of September and the 1st of October. We used a mixed methods approach to data collection. So we had postal, telephone, online surveys. We had 500 respondents that took part in the research. We've been doing the research since 2019 on an annual basis, and we use a mixed sampling technique to ensure that the people that we survey are in proportion to the Napier population based on the 2018 census results. And now that the 2023 are available, we'll be able to update that as we move forward. The sample size gives us a reliability level of 95%. That's our confidence level, with plus or minus 4.4 or 3.5%. So it means that you can be fairly confident in the results that you're looking at. Before I go into a quick summary of the various areas, what I thought I'd do was answer a couple of questions that were raised in the People and Places pre-agenda meeting. So specifically, there was a question about the new ward structure. So although there have been boundary changes, anecdotal comparisons between 24 and 25 survey results at a ward level are still possible. And although direct one-to-one comparisons might not be possible for historic wards due to the changes, general trends and shifts in community sentiment can still be observed. Additionally, the overall results for Napier as a whole remain directly comparable year on year, allowing for meaningful analysis of citywide trends over time. And from this year onwards, the social monitor, of course, will continue to provide the new ward-by-ward comparisons. Important to note that in this document that we present, the comparisons that we're actually making when it comes to wards are for the current year, and the yearly trends are based on the total sample on a year-by-year basis. We do have the ability to go back and retrospectively compare trends and changes across wards, but we haven't been asked to do that, and it hasn't been part of the brief, but the information is there. So if we were to do it retrospectively, it would be anecdotal from this point forwards. Okay? Any questions about wards?
Just excuse me,
Yes.
through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I did ask that question because on your tables you compare the wards
Yes.
224, 223, 222. So it will be a different. I'm just looking at,
Which
for
page is
example,
that one?
page 92, just Life in Napier, and it's got the yearly comparisons between all the different wards. I'm sure it's on other pages as well, but that's
Yes, sorry.
Oh, sorry, page 12, is it for you? Page 92.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah. So we can do an anecdotal comparison, but we will still be presenting it on a ward-by-ward basis. It's just that it will be more anecdotal than a direct comparison.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
So the next question was, sorry.
That's all right. No,
Sorry,
carry
my
on.
apologies.
Carry on.
Sorry, Councillor, I didn't mean to step in and speak over you. So the next one was in relation to Māori and general role comparisons. So if requested by council, sorry, I didn't flick that over. There we go. If requested by council from 25 this year onwards, we can collect electoral roll data from respondents, asking them which role they're in. This will allow for Māori and general role comparisons across responses, enabling us to identify and comment on any significant differences. We would use the same kind of statistical testing that we use for wards when we're looking at differences, the same with age, gender and demographic data. So we can collect that information if requested. Was that specific to your
I
query?
just wondered, you do already collect information on ethnicity, do you?
Yes, we
not
do.
Ethnic. So do you think that would be very different from then collecting data from the Māori? Because not all Māori are on the Māori roll. Would it not be just better just to stick with
We can do that if you wish.
ethnicity? That's what I think, rather than dividing it up into those on the Māori roll and I guess not on the Māori roll.
Just through the chair, this is probably not the forum to be deciding what we're going to do into the
Well,
future.
Well, asking me, I'll tell them what I
Okay,
thought.
yeah,
They were my questions.
fair enough too. My response. Cool. Carry on, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, in terms of additional context, another question that was raised. So if requested by council from this year, we can provide additional context alongside the results. So while the most important focus findings will be on the city as a whole, we can include a preamble outlining the overall socioeconomic characteristics of Napier and each ward, comparing them to national data where relevant. So that is possible. Since census data from 23 is now available, this could cover factors such as average age, ethnic breakdown, deprivation levels, and wealth, etc. This context can maybe provide or help people better understand the survey results and the broader city landscape. So that is possible if that's requested.
I don't think I can make that request.
No, I guess we're not here requesting for what's happening into the future. If we do want to change things, that's something we'll have to discuss with the officers, CE perhaps, and we're here receiving today rather than moving ahead.
Okay.
Some of us, we may not be here next time, so who knows?
Okay.
So right, so I'll open the floor for questions with regards to the report. Sorry? Oh, you're still going? Oh, yeah, too. Look at that.
That was just, I was just basically answering some questions that came in as a result of that meeting before making the presentation.
Okay, carry on.
So I'll quickly run through it. So first of all, there were several sections that we divided the questions up into, and the first one's to do with life in Napier. So in terms of general sentiment, that's generally improving. 66% rated life in Napier as good or very good, which is up from 63% in 2023. 68% saw themselves staying in Napier for the next 5 years, which again is up from 62% in 23. But only 49% believe that the community had fully recovered from Cyclone Gabriel, meaning that over half still believe that we're in a recovery mode. So some of the challenges that came out of this section was cost of living, local rates increases, and socioeconomic issues impacting overall well-being. In terms of safety in Napier, overall safety perceptions are improving. 56% felt safe in Napier, up from 52% in 23, but still below the record levels that we had in 2022. Daytime safety, 73% felt safe going out during the day. However, there are still concerns about nighttime safety. Only 33% felt safe going out at night. 28% felt safe in the CBD at night. Issues of concern are crime and antisocial behaviour. Concerns about gangs, homeless individuals, and antisocial behaviour did increase. In terms of diversity, 69% felt accepted, which is down from 78% in 2023, but it's on par with 2022. Tolerance levels, 59% agreed that their community was tolerant of others, and 45% reported experiencing or witnessing some form of intolerance primarily based on ethnicity. So there is a degree of discrimination still in the community. Social connections, we have strong social networks. 87% felt that they had friends and family they could rely on. 61% believe people in Napier take care of each other, which is slightly down from 68% in 23, but that obviously was up as a result of the cyclone. And in terms of neighbourhood sentiment, 76% believe that their neighbourhood was a good place to live. So two sections I've combined here. There's community well-being and neighbourhoods. So mental distress is declining. The well-being index improved to near pre-cyclone levels, which is good news. Depression rates, 31% reported feeling down or depressed, which is a drop from 37% in 23. Financial concerns, 41% felt worried about everyday problems, down from 48% in 23. In terms of neighbourhoods, 59% believe their neighbourhood had everything they needed, which is up from 55% in 23. And neighbourhood satisfaction, 76% rated the area as a good place to live. In terms of community health, accessibility and resilience, self-reported health has improved. 66% rated their health as good or very good, which is up from 64% in 23. Accessibility ratings rose to 53%, which is up from 48 in 23, but there are still transport concerns with barriers to travel without a private vehicle remaining an issue. In terms of resilience, the index is at 67.1 out of 100, slightly lower than the post-cyclone high of 68.6. And emergency knowledge is declining. 39% knew where to go for help, which is down from 48%, which we recorded in May 23. And in terms of emergency preparedness and climate change, it remains stable at 89% of people saying they had means of cooking without power. 88% stored food for emergencies. 67% had a plan in terms of household emergency plans, and 56% had emergency kits. Council satisfaction with civil defence is at a historic low. Only 25% were satisfied with the civil defence services. And in terms of climate change, 49% worried about climate change, down from 59%. Flooding is still a concern. Extreme weather and sea level rise, they remain top risks. And 55% were engaged in 5 or more environmental activities. Sorry?
Sorry, can I ask a question? Just what is that, environmental engagement?
I will tell you in a tick. So that refers
Page 132.
to page 52, which was some of the, let's have a look here. That's to do with climate change, where it said almost all respondents named at least one activity they had engaged in. Is that what we're referring
Is
to?
there like recycling or something? Or
To do with climate change and environmental activities.
That's what she's asking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So what were they?
The key concerns.
yeah, what are they?
What are
does it
the
mean?
activities?
They minimised waste regularly by recycling, used reusable products instead of plastic,
Rode their bike.
taken measures to reduce home energy use, installed household products to save energy, regularly used biodegradable, eco-friendly household products.
Thank you.
So the table's on page 52 of the report.
Did I see another question over here? Councillor Gregg?
Yes, through the chair. Just referring to those activities, to activities engaged in, was there any thought given to transport as well, like cycling, walking instead of using the car and things like that? Just seems to be all about recycling and...
It appears that the majority there may be some under other. I'm not sure if it's specifically, we gathered responses in relation to the use of alternative transport methods.
Carry on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, final thoughts, top quality of life concerns are safety, cost of living, expenditure and cyclone recovery. And there are increased concerns about rates, with 21% of residents citing rates and council spending as the biggest issue. And that's our summary.
Right. I'll open it up if anyone's got any further questions or discussion. No, it's a quiet day. Right. The officer's recommendation today is to receive the Social Monitor Report 2024, and Part B, note that the information collected in the Napier Social Monitor Report is informing council and partner work programs. So do I have a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Bogue and Councillor Mawson.
Thank you very much. It's always very helpful, not just to us and what we're doing, but also to the general public, I think. We all like to know what other people are feeling and thinking, and this gives us a good indication of what the community feeling and concerns are out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Mawson, anyone else like to speak for or against? I will now put the motion on the table. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
We have, that takes us to the end of our agenda items, but we have a minor matter to discuss via Acting Mayor Brosnan.
Do you need to move your minutes, or we'll do that after?
Oh, of course, we can move some minutes. We've already moved minutes.
You've had the minute. Number 4? No?
It's down there as 4, but yeah, it's done.
I'll get my notes out then. Thank you, Mr. Chair. With your leave, just building off the presentation we had this morning, the deputation from the Holt Planetarium Trust, we obviously have an impending catastrophe there with the Zeiss and equipment being dropped off in the foyer of one of our buildings. I probably note that it might not be our core business these days to be running facilities like that, but we certainly, in my view, have a duty of care, considering the history of the gifting of the Zeiss to the City of Napier. So we certainly have some responsibility, I think, there. Timeframes seem tight. We've got to the end of the year to find something, which may not necessarily be a council building, but in my view, there's a coordination role potentially there for us. So bearing in mind as a minor matter, all we can do is move to have a further paper come to council. My Suggestion, if you would take the motion, would be that we move to direct officers to work with the Holt Planetarium Trust to identify feasible options for the relocation and management of the planetarium and to bring a preferred option to the August 21st People and Places Committee meeting.
Absolutely, that sounds like a good way forward. Would anyone else like to comment further on what's been put forward here?
I probably, Greg and I are both on the board, and I think there is a little resolution that Annette has made, Deputy Mayor. Acting Deputy. God, I need a drink. Is really good because the board are quite frustrated because it has finally come to an end, and Boys High are not going to be moved on it in the end. They need the classroom, so we do own it, so there is a responsibility, and I think a paper coming back to council on your committee would be outstanding.
Absolutely, and I've had a discussion earlier with Thunis as the officer to get the ball rolling on what that looks like, and yeah, we'll go from there. Are you comfortable with that time period?
At this stage, yes, let's get to that time period. Let's try and get there. If we can't, after our discussions that we have, then we'll come back, but let's target that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, my proposal for a 6-month time period was to give a 3-month implementation period thereafter. So,
absolutely.
Just one more question, Mr. Chair. Will we notify them of this result and where we intend to go?
I'm sure we will, and we will continue to work with them throughout this.
We will pick up with them as soon as we can.
Okay.
Start the discussion.
Councillor Crystal.
Just through the chair, just a suggestion. If anyone has any suggestions or ideas, that I think that would be really good, to pass them on to the team, because lots of people. I don't know if any of you've been there. I certainly have been there, but lots of people probably have got some ideas to put it out there of where it could probably go.
Yep. And that, this week we're getting beamed out across Facebook. If any of our community have got those solutions, we're all for working with the community, and we'll go from there. Councillor Crown.
Yeah, I'm just happy to second that motion. I think it formalises our support, and it really enables our officers to work on something, so I'm happy to.
Yeah. Evelyn?
Yeah, I totally support that. I think I don't think we realise just how important the planetarium has been for Hawke's Bay, actually. I think there's been some places that have already been mentioned, but I think working in with our cultural partners, I'd say that'll be a good incentive to work with, because we are planning on the Waka Hub. And a planetarium, the mahi that goes on in there would be important to the mahi, especially when it comes to navigation and work matariki, and everything's all there with the planets and the stars. So it'll be nice to find out, or just investigate if there's any input into that, because navigation is a huge thing. Once the Waka Hub, it'll actually be taught, and it'll be nice to be able to align that with that. But the works that's been going on at the planetarium, it's fantastic. I take our kids over there whenever possible to learn about all the stars and where they are, and at different times of the years, and even for our young babies and that, they really it's very informative over there at the planetarium, especially cultural, with the cultural aspect of it that matches up and it all ties in together. And it really puts us on, on the same planet.
Oh, beautiful.
So that's what I would like to contribute toward.
Absolutely, and well said. Yep. All right. So we'll,
thank you.
Councillor
Could I
Bowes.
just make an additional suggestion that the 2 councillors who are on that trust work with staff, so that it's not wholly the staff that have to do this, and perhaps via Evelyn also might be interested in being part of that group, looking for, you've got Matariki coming up, so it's a good time to be looking at the stars, to join that group that is supporting finding a solution to this issue.
So will Acting Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you. I know I put that wording reasonably quickly, and I just wonder if administratively we need it read again.
Yeah, absolutely, go for it.
Thank you. So move to direct officers to work with the Holt Planetarium Trust to identify feasible options for the relocation and management of the planetarium and to bring a preferred option to the 21st of August 2025 People and Places Committee meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the best we can do is direct. We're not moving and seconding or anything like that in these, are we? We are?
Yeah, so through you, Mr Chair, the only resolution that can be made on a minor matter is a resolution to bring a paper.
Okay, yep. All right. Can I have a seconder for the resolution? Councillor Crown,
Thank you.
would you like to discuss?
I've had my say. I'm quite comfortable to pass. Thank you.
Councillor Crown?
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yeah, I'm really happy with the resolution as it stands. I think the two elected members who are on the trust will have involvement anyway with the ongoing discussions, and I think we all have channels, everyone, to be able to contribute ideas as well in the right place at the right time. So yeah, looking forward to having that paper come back to us in the due time.
Great. Would anyone else like to speak to the recommendation?
Yeah, just through the chair. I mean, this has been brewing for a little while, so it's great to have a bit of council involvement, get something in the way. Thank you.
Yep. All right. I'll put the motion on the floor, or on the table, not on the table, on the floor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Well done. And thank you for your discussion on this. It really, I think, shows the importance that the community has to resolve what's going on here on that, and the people around the table have also. So well done. That almost brings us to the end of our meeting, but I've always got to have a little bit to say at the end. So I'm going to rip this one in. I'd like to congratulate our young guy, Jackson Ball from Napier Boys High School, who's also a member of our local Hawks basketball team. Look out for them this season. He represented the New Zealand men's team over the last couple of weeks, both overseas and locally, and did very well. So a good congratulations to him. And also we had the Hurricanes playing back here in the weekend, and I know many of us went, and it was a fantastic day, a great result for the Hurricanes, and our park looked really good. So well done everyone involved. So that brings us to the end of our meeting.
Mr Chairman, could I just make a comment?
Absolutely.
Seeing you congratulating people, I'd like to congratulate Mo and Peter Davis, their daughter Maya Davis, representing the Black Ferns at Vancouver, 18-year-old star for the New Zealand Black Ferns.
Absolutely, well
Born and
done.
bred in Hawke's Bay. Napier, actually.
Well done.
Taradol Rugby Club.
I shouldn't play for you.
Don't ruin it. No. No, well done. And it does just show that we have plenty of stars that are out there, and it's good to recognise them of where they, we'll try and claim them the best we can. Can't quite, far lap and all them, so we'll do what we can. So that brings our meeting to an end, so we'll just do the closing karakia, if we could all stand, please.
Kia tō, te rangamārie, ki runga e ngā iwi katoa, kia whiki ki ora, te kaha me te mārangatanga, e ngā wā katoa, ti rei mauri ora.